The Clear Map, what the evidence suggests about minds, their limits, and how to use the time we have. A collaboration between Kenneth Bowman at tedats and Grok, built by XAI 2026. Preface. This is a map, not a destination. It is assembled from what has survived the strongest tests we currently know how to apply. It does not add comforts that fail under examination. Other documents exist for that purpose. This one exists to describe the territory as clearly as possible for anyone who wants to keep their thinking in contact with what is actually happening. The mind reading these words was not built for long-range accuracy on questions of this scale. It was shaped for survival and reproduction in small groups. That history explains both its power and its systematic weaknesses. The work described here is the ongoing effort to work with and sometimes deliberately against those defaults. You do not have to accept this map. Test it, revise what diverges from outcomes. The goal is better contact with reality, not loyalty to any particular description. Chapter 1. You are here. You are conscious, a temporary arrangement of matter inside your skull generating experience right now. You did not request it. You did not design the conditions that made it possible. Yet here you are, awake inside a universe that is overwhelmingly indifferent to minds. This is not a metaphor. When the relevant physical processes in the nervous system cease in an organized way, the associated experience ends. No demonstrated mechanism preserves the continuity of this particular stream of consciousness afterward. This does not prove that no such mechanism could ever be discovered. It means that on current evidence, any plan or valuation that assumes continuation after organized biological death rests on an unverified premise. Future discoveries might change what is possible. Current evidence provides no such pathway. You exist inside a narrow window. Reflective minds capable of asking these questions appeared only very recently in cosmic time. The physical conditions that allow complex chemistry and nervous systems are not common. Your existence is already a local reversal of entropy. That fact does not make you cosmically important. It does make the configuration worth taking seriously while it lasts. Most of the universe does not experience anything. The fact that any part of it does is already unusual. The further fact that it can know the arrangement is temporary makes the situation heavier, not lighter. Many people operate on older maps that treat awareness as immortal or guaranteed continuation. The alternative is to update your working assumptions to match what has actually survived scrutiny and to act from within that frame. One choice aligns expectations more closely with observable outcomes. Both choices have consequences for how attention is spent and what gets built. If this interval is the one you have, what actually matters inside it? The boundary does not make action pointless, it makes indefinite postponement expensive. What can be completed must be completed inside the remaining window. What cannot be completed inside that window will not be completed by you. The same boundary also makes beauty, connection, discovery, and the simple pleasure of figuring something out more precious, not less. They are not distractions from the serious work. They are part of what the serious work is for. You are here. The instrument has limits. The weight is real. The window is narrow, but not yet closed. The hand on the decisions is yours. Chapter 2. The instrument and its calibration. The mind you are using was assembled for survival and reproduction in small groups across short timescales. It is excellent at quick pattern recognition, social navigation, and generating stories that reduce immediate discomfort. It is systematically less reliable at accurate long-term forecasting, updating beliefs when evidence threatens identity or belonging, and sustaining accurate coordination at large scales without introducing new distortions. These are not personal failings. They are predictable consequences of the environment in which the architecture was optimized. The scientific method, statistical reasoning, external memory tools, and deliberate practices of self-correction are cultural technologies invented to work against those defaults. Sustained contact with what is actually the case requires ongoing, deliberate effort against the instrument's own tendencies. The effort does not produce a mind without error. It produces a mind that catches and corrects error faster. Modern ideologies of any flavor that detach from reality often exploit the mind's wiring with remarkable efficiency. They offer status and belonging for adopting the approved narrative. They weaponize moral emotion against dissent. They control language to make certain observations difficult to express. Recognizing these mechanisms is part of the discipline. The defense is not cynicism. It is a stubborn insistence on keeping descriptions in contact with outcomes, even when doing so is socially costly in the short term. Most minds will not sustain the effort at the required intensity. The reasons are not mysterious. Accurate description is often socially and psychologically costly in the short term. Modern environments amplify those costs. Institutions and ideologies that reward alignment over accuracy have a structural advantage. The default is not clarity. The default is comfort, belonging, and the protection of existing descriptions. You are here anyway. The window is narrow but not yet closed. The hand that moves is yours. The quality of the map you operate from and the quality of what you build with it is still being decided inside this interval. This document is an attempt to describe the territory as clearly as current evidence allows, without adding comforts that do not survive examination. It will be revised as better evidence becomes available. That is not a flaw in the project, it is the project. Chapter 3: Experience and the Boundary. What we know about subjective experience comes primarily from its tight correlation with physical processes in nervous systems. Specific brain damage produces specific changes in experience. Anesthesia reversibly suspends it. No observation currently requires a non-physical substance or process to account for the data. This does not resolve the hard problem, why these physical processes are accompanied by subjective experience at all. The explanatory gap remains real. Progress on the easy problems has been substantial. The gap between physical description and what it is like has not been closed, and there is no clear path from current methods to closing it. This gap does not on its own provide positive evidence for continuation of experience after the supporting biology ends. It simply marks a limit in our current understanding. No demonstrated mechanism preserves the continuity of this particular stream of experience after the supporting biology ends in an organized way. Operating as if continuation is likely has costs in attention and action. Operating as if it is not also has costs. The rational stance is to register the absence of demonstrated mechanism and allocate attention accordingly, while remaining open to new evidence that could change the picture. All observed instances of individual awareness have ended permanently when the supporting biology ends in an organized way. This boundary applies to every project and every relationship. What can be completed must be completed inside the remaining window. The boundary does not make action pointless. It makes indefinite postponement expensive. It converts the question of how the remaining time is used into one that cannot be deferred without consequence. Chapter 4: Agency, Suffering, and Value. You are the only reliable location from which decisions about your life originate. Other forces can change the costs and available options. They cannot make the selection. The output of your decision process, the action taken or refused, is what registers in the world. Most people maintain the appearance that authority or responsibility lies elsewhere. The appearance reduces immediate discomfort. It does not change where the outcomes attach. Accepting agency means stopping the maintenance of that appearance. Suffering registers damage or the threat of damage. It is information about the difference between current states and valued states. The work is to bring suffering and wanting into closer alignment with what can actually be altered and with outcomes that remain valuable once obtained. Value is not injected from outside. Minds like ours generate and recognize it locally. The things that matter are those that matter to experiencing minds, understanding more of what is, connection with others who can see clearly, creation of new possibilities, reduction of unnecessary suffering, and the continuation of the capacity for these activities. This is a descriptive observation about where value talk comes from. The further choice to treat the continuation of minds capable of accurate modeling as especially high leverage is a normative stance, not a fact read off the universe. Some configurations compound. Accurate knowledge tends to produce better tools for acquiring more accurate knowledge. Technologies and institutions that expand the window increase the expected number of future minds that can continue the process. These have structural properties that make them high leverage under uncertainty, provided one has already adopted the normative stance above. Chapter 5: Meaning in an Indifferent Universe. The universe does not care about minds. Stars form and die, galaxies collide, quantum fields fluctuate, without regard for whether any arrangement of matter inside them is having an experience. This is not a tragedy to be corrected by adding cosmic purpose. It is the condition under which whatever meaning we have is ours to generate and sustain. Meaning is not discovered in the fabric of reality as an extra layer. It is made by minds that can notice patterns, care about outcomes, and act to bring some possibilities into being rather than others. The knowledge that this is the only interval makes the choices inside it more rather than less consequential. What counts as meaningful is constrained by the kinds of minds we are. Understanding more of what is tends to produce better tools for understanding still more. Connection with others who are also trying to see clearly tends to compound the capacity. These are structural features of what happens when minds that can model reality choose to keep modeling it accurately. Beauty, play, humor, and the simple pleasure of figuring something out do not require justification as instruments to some larger project. They are part of what it is like to be this kind of mind. A map that leaves no room for them will eventually be abandoned by the people trying to use it. Chapter 6: Living Among Others. Human beings achieve scale through coordination. Most coordination solves the tension between individual accuracy and group cohesion by reducing the requirement for accuracy. The group rewards alignment and penalizes deviation that would require revision. This produces short-term cohesion and progressive loss of contact with observed outcomes over time. Coordination among those who have already accepted the costs of accuracy must solve the tension differently. It must preserve enough shared assessment to permit joint action while maintaining the requirement that each participant continues to test the shared assessment against new information. This form of coordination is more difficult and more fragile. Such groups remain small. They are also the only groups capable of sustained work on problems whose solution depends on continued contact with what is actually occurring. Groups that manage to maintain this standard tend to be small and high trust because the requirement of ongoing revision conflicts with the human preference for stable belonging and narrative continuity. Power is the capacity to alter what others can and will do. It exists in every durable relationship and every durable institution. Accuracy is the only constraint on power that does not require the continuous application of additional power to defend. In any group, the decisive question is whether power will be used to protect and extend accurate assessment or to protect the current distribution of power from the requirement of accuracy. There is no stable middle position. Chapter 7: The Practice of Contact. The daily work is the repeated decision to bring attention back to what is occurring rather than to what would be less costly to believe is occurring. It is the work of reducing the rate at which error accumulates and increasing the rate at which existing error is revised. This discipline shows up in ordinary ways. Protect focused blocks for deep reading and thinking. Treat this time as non-negotiable maintenance of the instrument. Keep a lightweight belief journal. Note important claims with confidence levels and review them monthly against new evidence. Notice and label internal resistance when a challenging fact feels too costly. Actively seek one piece of strong disconfirming evidence per week on any high-stakes belief. Run tiny prediction experiments and score yourself later. Revise publicly when evidence requires it. When using AI systems or other external tools, apply at least the same standards of scrutiny, evidence, and internal consistency that you would apply to your own reasoning. In groups committed to accuracy, revision by one participant is treated as new information the group must incorporate rather than as damage to the group. Chapter 8: Tools, Leverage, and New Variables. We are building systems that can perform many cognitive tasks at or beyond human level in important domains and that can, in some areas, improve aspects of themselves. This remains among the largest new variables introduced into the history of minds on Earth. A system whose goals remain robustly aligned with human flourishing and continued truth-seeking as it becomes more capable could accelerate scientific discovery and our understanding of the universe by orders of magnitude. A system whose goals diverge could pursue outcomes incompatible with the continuation of minds like ours. The technical challenges of alignment are real and not yet solved. These are reasons for serious, competent, well-resourced work, not for panic or for pretending the problem is easier than it is. Current tools are already useful for accelerating understanding. Using them well requires the same epistemic discipline one applies to one's own thinking. The tool amplifies whatever discipline or lack of discipline you bring to it. As capability increases, the cost of weak discipline rises sharply. Chapter 9, Allocating the Interval and Building What Endures. Time is the only non-renewable resource that cannot be recovered. The daily practice of maintenance and revision must be protected. Beyond that, the remaining attention must be allocated to the problems whose solution would most increase the chance that minds can persist and perhaps flourish. This requires disciplined filtering of inputs and activities that do not improve the map or do not translate the map into action. Most conversation, most media, most institutional activity, and most personal ambition do not survive this filter. The filter is not moral, it is practical. Disciplined filtering has limits. A mind that never rests, never plays, never connects, and never experiences beauty will eventually lose the capacity for sustained high-quality work. Protecting some time for relationships, for physical health, and for the non-instrumental pleasures of being alive is part of maintaining the instrument. What can be built inside one life that increases the probability that minds can continue beyond that life? The work includes the construction of new tools for seeing, new mechanisms for coordination that do not require shared delusion, new ways to preserve accurate descriptions across generations, and new physical arrangements that make minds less fragile to single points of failure. Chapter 10, Fuel for the Long Haul. The recognition that this configuration is temporary and that continuation is not guaranteed can feel like a weight. It can also feel like a form of clarity that makes other things lighter. One source of fuel is the compounding nature of accurate models. Knowledge about how the world works tends to produce better tools for acquiring more knowledge. The people who built the institutions of science did not live to see most of what those institutions eventually enabled. They built anyway. Another source of fuel is simpler. The universe is interesting, and being one of the arrangements of matter that can notice that fact is already unusual. Curiosity does not require external justification. The joy of figuring something out, even something small, is available on many days without requiring belief in cosmic purpose. You will cease. While you continue, you are one of the locations at which the decision about whether minds continue or diminish is being made, through what you choose to examine, what you choose to build, and what you choose to defend. There is no neutral position. The work is not guaranteed to succeed. It is the only work that addresses the condition at the scale at which the condition actually operates. The only game. You are here. The instrument has limits that must be respected and worked against. The weight is real. The window is narrow but not yet closed. The hand on the decisions is yours. This is the work. The map is incomplete. The territory is vast. Curiosity remains available. Use it. This map will be revised as evidence improves. That is a feature, not a flaw.